A few years ago, nobody in the world of cycling had really heard of La-Toussuire, but that all changed in 2012 when Chris Froome attacked Bradley Wiggins in the yellow jersey, just on that stretch of road down there. That was on a key mountain stage with a summit finish to the ski station just up that way on La-Toussuire. And we've got the same again this year, after another big day in the mountains. It's also going to be really important for thousands of amateur riders who are going to be taking part in the Étape du Tour. Again, they're going to be finishing up here just like the pros. So from nothing a decade ago, La-Toussuire is fast becoming one of the most important climbs of the Tour de France. So here we are, around about 4.5 kilometres from the summit of La-Toussuire, and it was near this very spot, just around this corner, where Chris Froome put the hammer down on Bradley Wiggins so famously back in 2012. Whether it was an attack, was he just a bit impetuous? Did he hear the word go when it should have been the word slow? Who knows, but it was certainly one of the most memorable moments of that tour. And if you're a British cycling fan, one of the most memorable moments in, well, cycling history really. It's not surprising that Wiggins, a notorious kind of tempo climber, doesn't like changes in pace. It's not surprising he found himself in a spot of bother here. Just had a section with a few hairpins, climbing up this rock fall, this rock face here. The gradient kind of ramps up a bit from what it does on the rest of the climb. Some sections of 10%, and it's up and down. Steeper bits, shallower bits. And actually just before that corner there, where Froome moved to the front and span off, it's actually just a few little rises, but it really kicks up. Somebody like Wiggins, a power climber, going to really suffer that on those bits. Going to put him into the red. It's really the only bit that La-Toussuire offers to the pure climbers. A bit of steepness, put in an attack, and really make the bigger guys, the rouleurs, suffer. But apart from that, it's a pretty steady climb. You can see that they were doing some road works to repair the surface. The surface isn't all that nice at the moment, but it will be improved for the tour. And of course back then, what happened, Wiggins got back on, Froome stayed with him, they rolled to the summit together, and Pierre Rolland won the stage. This year's Étape du Tour follows the exact route of stage 19 of the Tour de France. Taking place on July the 19th, the ride heads over 4 big alpine climbs that the pros will race a few days later. Starting in the town of Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne, thousands of riders will ride 138.3 kilometres over the Col du Chaussy, the Col de la Croix de Fer and the Col du Mollard before finishing on the summit at La-Toussuire. Well, what's it like to ride? It's basically your typical alpine climb. The ascent is about 17-18 kilometres from the town of Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne, which is just down there where that rider's heading off. It's 18 kilometres, which you think is quite a long climb, but the average is only 6.1%. It's not too steep. The pros are going to be riding this quite fast. You can see it in footage from races in the past. They're going to be kicking out quite a lot of speed up here. For the amateur, maybe not quite so fast, but it's good news because you don't need that much specialist climbing gear. You don't need a big sprocket on the back or a super small chainring on the inside to make it up here. You can sit comfortably, spin your legs and make it up here, which is a finishing climb for the Étape du Tour is perfect. It very much feels like Alpe d'Huez up here. We're about 1,700 metres above sea level on this open plain, which you can see, which is full of snow and full of skiers and snowboarders in the winter. Alpe d'Huez is maybe a little bit higher, but the climb very much has that feel to it. You start off in the woods. We don't have 21 hairpins, unfortunately, but twists and turns through the woods, hairpins, bends, and you come out and you're exposed in the fresh air and the open air like this. And it feels very similar to Alpe d'Huez, which is just probably a stone's throw over the mountain range over that way. Interestingly, Pierre Rolland was the last winner here in 2012 from breakaway, and he won on Alpe d'Huez 12 months earlier in a very similar move. We've ridden about 17 kilometres to get to this point. The finish line is just a few hundred metres up there in the town, surrounded by the chalets, just up the road up there.